What do you think? Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, he doesn't say that. Oh, also, maybe let me do this, I'm sorry. Let me read the offering from our GBC. Our GBC is Amrita Swami. This is something Prabhupada established for. That's really kept our movement together because we have a governing body commission. We don't have an offering from our temple, but I will read the offering that Maharaj wrote to Srila Prabhupada. This is from Devarita Swami. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my prostrated obeisances at your lotus feet, my only shelter in the unremitting storm known as material existence. When I contemplate the utter wreckage of my life before encountering your mercy, I shudder and shake. During BP, the appalling years before Prabhupada, I superficially thrived as a Manhattan enjoyer, externally living as a privileged, educated life of elitist benefits. Internally, however, I was a desert, an existential wasteland. David Lee Maharaj graduated from Yale University in like 1972. And they had great expectations for him, but he became brahmachari. And he's still sannyasi. He's been celibate all this year. So that's why he's writing in this way. That's the background. His parents had a park condo in Manhattan. He's a little privilege. Society goaded and pressured me, reassuring, you scaled the mountain to the pinnacle. Now breathe the rarefied atmosphere of delight. Nevertheless, the thought terrified me. Is this all that be? The one who dies with the most toys and acclaim wins? The overpowering cosmic reality seemed nothingness. A nihilistic pseudo-siddhanta reigned supreme. On this crazy planet, devise your own truth. Make your own light. As you brief life fades in and out of the vast darkness, coldness, indifference of the universe. The guiding verses walk together with my thoughts through the chaos, dispelling the spiritual material deadliness of such massive inner devastation. You brought me back to the infinitely attractive Sri Sri Radha Krishna, especially as they combine as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Not only did you give us the concessions of them, consciousness of them, but also you lavished upon us knowledge of their pure devotional service, the most precious gem. The standard of pure devotion is so atypical and anomalous, it sounds beyond supernatural. Yet nothing else can attract Krishna. What to do? Only your eternal status as a pure devotee can resolve my dilemma. Nothing else will suffice. If I selflessly serve your lotus feet, the impossible attainment of Sudha Bhakti becomes within reach. Because of you, Krishna agreed to notice me in my juvenile attempts at pleasing him. Bhaktivinoda Thakur declares the reality of your place in my life. Krishna is yours. You have the power to give him to me. Can someone close that back door there? I am simply running behind you shouting, Krishna, Krishna! Please establish this fallen soul in your service, which allow Sri Sri Radha Krishna and Sri Panchatakka to shine their grace upon me. Your hopeful servant, His Holiness Devarita Swami. Hari Bol. I'll see if I come. Okay.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatadeshwarani Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Go Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare. So before I read my Vyasa Puja offering to Srila Prabhupada, there's one devotee who is not here today, who along with Balavanta, who's here, founded this preaching here in Atlanta. I have one, thank you. In 1970. This devotee joined ISKCON in 1969. And this morning I was reading the letter from Srila Prabhupada to him, which reads like a purport. It is so detailed how Srila Prabhupada wrote to this wonderful devotee. And then also Prabhupada was there for the wedding of this devotee. So this devotee has a lot of contact, or had a lot of contact with Srila Prabhupada. And that same devotee came to Atlanta to help form the preaching strategy for Atlanta, along with Bhagavanta Prabhu. And that devotee is Janmajaya Prabhu. He lives in Athens, Georgia. And now he's suffering from stage 4 cancer. And Bhagavanta Prabhu just went to see him yesterday. I'm going there tomorrow to see him. And what we have to understand is that there would be no program here in this temple room. No Vyasa Puja, no Janmashtami, nothing without the sacrifices of, especially this one devotee. And other devotees like Bhagavanta Prabhu and Bhagavanta Prabhu's wife and several other devotees who sacrificed, as seek me to explain, educational pursuits, business pursuits, everything to establish the preaching here in Atlanta. And I owe an amazing debt to Bhagavanta Prabhu. Because when I was coming to the temple, I was convinced that I can just go to the temple, no problem. Go to Sunday feast, have a good time, chant, dance, and go home. And that was my practice. So Bhagavanta noticed me, because I was coming to the temple every day at lunch from my job. The temple was on 13th Street and I worked on 14th Street. So I just walked to the temple every day, chant 4 rounds, take prasadam. Of course, I didn't like halava. So the devotees would save me a lot of halava because they knew I wouldn't eat it and they would get it. But anyway, different story. So Bhagavanta noticed me. And he told me one day, he brought me in his office, he said, "You come every day to the temple. Why don't you just join?" And I went, "Join?" I was thinking, have you lost your mind? I have my little program. I come, I chant, I go help in the incense warehouse, I do all these things. I never thought of joining until he mentioned it to me. Then I said, "But I'm married, I have a child." And he said, "Well, if your wife loves you, she'll join with you." Of course, my ex-wife, she did join at that time, by the grace of Bhagavanta Prabhu. So Bhagavanta Prabhu, Janmanjaya Prabhu, and many other devotees like Jaya Sena Prabhu, they all invested in me Krishna consciousness, the understanding of Krishna consciousness, and especially Bhagavanta. He would give Bhagavatam classes practically every day and just give us so much knowledge. And when I wanted to start doing Sankirtan, Bhagavanta told me, I said, "I want to learn how to do book distribution from Tripurari and this devotee and that devotee." Bhagavanta said, "No, Bhagavanta, you just go and preach. Just go and preach." And that's been my practice for all these years. So I'm indebted to him and also his wife, Bhagavati. My first big service in the temple was babysitting his daughter, Shravanamanda. She was just a little baby in a little baby carriage with all these pictures of Krishna inside the little gift shop. And I would come every Sunday and clean the gift shop and babysit. So with the blessings of all these devotees, I'm sitting here today saying something to you about my relationship with Srila Prabhupada. So I wrote, there's a book, you may have seen, this is a Vyasa Puja book, which includes offerings from all Prabhupada disciples, as many as possible. There's an official Vyasa Puja book from the BBT. This is something done by Prabhupada's disciples, and all his disciples living in the temple, not living in the temple, this doesn't matter. They can give their feelings about Srila Prabhupada. It's a very beautiful, wonderful Vyasa Pujas here. So I'll read mine real quick. My dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my most humble and prostrated obeisances in the dust of your glorious lotus feet. It is only by your unlimited and causeless mercy that a poor fallen soul such as me can claim to be the disciple of such an exalted soul as you, my eternal master. I am simply praying for your mercy so that I may continue on the path of bhakti. I am weak and susceptible to Maya's repeated attacks. Thank you. But by remembering you, and especially by chanting 16 rounds and daily reading Srimad Bhagavatam, I am somehow remaining enthusiastic in my service of preaching the glories of the Lord. And I just wanted to mention that next month, October, will be my 50th year of joining the temple here in Atlanta by the grace of God. So I told some devotees this morning, don't ask me too many questions. You should ask me, how did you stay in this movement for 50 years? And I'll tell you the secret. Want to know the secret? It's always taking advice from senior devotees. Bhagavanta knows if I have a problem, I call him. He has a law practice, and I'll call him right in the middle of the day. He'll call me back, because he knows if I call him, it's serious. But that's our relationship for all these years. It is utterly amazing to me that I am more excited than ever to go out weekly for Harinam Sankirtan. You know, one of the reasons why I'm so attached to Harinam Sankirtan is Bhagavanta. As our temple president, he made sure we did Harinam. And we were so into Harinam that we used to take the little Gornitai deities to downtown Atlanta and have Arati and Kirtan. It was amazing. And the newspapers all recognized us. It was Hare Krishna. One time we were dancing in the winter, and the newspaper said, with a picture, a winter's dance to Hare Krishnas. And another time in the summer or spring, we were going down the street, sure sign of spring, the Hare Krishna. So it was very special. By your mercy, a few devotees regularly join me. Garima, where are you? Raise your hand. She's been going since she was 2 years old. Give her a round of applause. Where's Krishna? Where's Krishna? Little Krishna. Raise your hand. He's been going since he was 2 years old. Now I have my newest and youngest. Actually, I mentioned it here about 2 years old, but I have to revise this. I have a new Harinam partner. He was 8 months old when he started. Where's Nitai? Nitai, where are you? He's somewhere.
He's out there crying.
Now he's 1 year old.
The one that was crying.
And he loves Harinam. Really loves Harinam. So only by Prabhupada's grace I have these two devotees. You will be pleased to know that I have trained several young devotees in the mood of simple kirtan, focusing on the names, the holy names. Some of them started as young as 2 years old, so that's why I say I have to revise it, because now someone started at 8 months old. But Garima, she started when she was 2. Now she's leading kirtan everywhere, all over the world, everywhere, by Krishna's grace. So I'm thankful to you for these devotees. And now these kids can lead kirtan or kirtans at various events. And they get extremely excited when they sing, Jai Srila Prabhupada! 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 Especially little Krishna, when he does kirtan, no matter if you try to stop him, he will get angry with you until he sings Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Gurudev. Right, Krishna? He loves to sing Jai Prabhupada. Now, one point there is that whatever actions you perform, others will follow. If we want our next generation, our young generation, to be Krishna conscious, look in the mirror and get yourself straight. We have to be Krishna conscious. They will follow us. We also distribute your books during the Harinam. And that's mainly done by Champakalata, raise your hand. She's one of our main book distributors, and Bhakta Tim. Without fail, those two are always there. Haribo. Give a round of applause. And the reception is very encouraging. I'm not joking, very encouraging. People downtown are so excited when they see devotees. There's this one gentleman, African-American gentleman, and every time we go, he comes up to me and gives me a hug. I've been missing you, man. Where you been? Every time he just found, and one day he gave us a big bouquet of balloons to appreciate the devotees. It's very special. My desire is to become completely immersed in reading your books, performing public kirtans, and inspiring devotees to focus on the example that you set for all of us disciples and future generations of devotees as well. When I think of the sacrifices that you endured to start this movement, it moves me to tears, and it inspires me to endeavor more consistently despite numerous difficulties, my dear Srila Prabhupada, please continue to bless me with faith, determination, and commitment to your vision for this movement, which you so clearly defined in the 7 purposes of ISKCON. Your eternal servant, Bhagavata Bhattacharya Das. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Have a good day.
His Grace Balabaja Prabhu ki. So now we'll hear from Prabhupada. Prabhu.
Namo Vishnu Vidaya Krishna Prastaya Guruvaya Vishnu Bhakti-vedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurani Vacharani Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tani. So typically on the day of Vyasa Puja for Srila Prabhupada, I absorb my mind in thoughts of gratitude to my God brothers and God sisters who at the time actually helped me even approach Srila Prabhupada. Balabhadra, and so many dozens of devotees. That's who I am. I think Srila Prabhupada. I was in the same milieu, the cultural milieu at the time, but I was more kind of into kind of a vegetarian, Buddhist, kind of a mishmash of things that were floating around there. I knew about the devotees, but I didn't regard them very much. I didn't pay that much attention to the books or the philosophy or what they're doing. They were just sort of like, okay, they got their thing, I'm doing my thing. And but by the grace of devotees, a close friend of mine, and Balavanta and Balabhadra and others, the door was open, and I was able to come and approach Srila Prabhupada. We visited in Atlanta, and after that time, by their grace, I engaged in devotional service, and I haven't left since then. I was thank you to my God brothers and God sisters. Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastrakai, Lava Matra Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhi Hoy. It applies to Srila Prabhupada, but it also applies to Srila Prabhupada's followers who actually brought and engaged people in his movement. Thank you.
You have to tell the story.
I don't
You have to tell it. If you don't, I will.
No, tell it.
Yeah, you can tell that.
Yeah.
All right, I'll tell it quickly. So in this very room, in 1974,
Standing right here.
the room was full like this, only there was a wall there. There was a hallway on the other side. So Prabhupada was on this Vyasa, and we were having a Sunday feast lecture. Prabhupada's lecture, very nice. And so then it was time for questions. So there was one guest who came every Sunday. I forgot his name. He was a musician. He got with the Atlanta, one of the big bands.
Yeah.
He ended up and he would come here and we'd go to the 3HO ashram, which was there was an ashram established by a Sikh.
That was Jerry Fields.
Jerry.
Hampton Grease Band.
Which one?
Hampton Grease Band.
Hampton Grease. Anyway, it was a famous band in his day. So he would come here and he would go to the other place. And we would preach to him, they would preach, and so he was a little confused. So when Prabhupada came, he said, he raised his hand at the time for the questions. Who is Guru Nanak? Oh no, what happens to the followers of Guru Nanak? So all of you know Guru Nanak is So Prabhupada said, very gravely, the followers of Guru Nanak are indeed fortunate. So this one had also been in the same, going back and forth, but not with Guru Nanak. He was interested in a teacher by the name of Mayor Baba. I don't know if you've heard of Mayor Baba. He was a little famous
Or
ones.
contacted or influenced.
Yeah,
Curious.
he wasn't a follower, yeah.
Perplexed by Mayor.
There was a big, at Emory, where Prabhupada was a student, there was a big Mayor Baba following. He had established an ashram in South Carolina. The president of the student body was a Mayor Baba person. And initially, when we opened the temple, they used to come to the temple. They would come to Bhagavad Gita class, they would come to Sunday feast. But then we started preaching against impersonalism because they were impersonal, so they stopped coming. We were offensive to them. We were not real smart in the beginning. But anyway, so Prabhupada was emboldened because we had been telling him, no, Mayor Baba, you have to be personal, you have to be Krishna conscious. So Prabhupada was emboldened by Prabhupada's answer to Jerry. So Prabhupada standing in this very spot, looked at that very person, Srila Prabhupada, and boldly stood up and said, "Who is Mayor Baba?" And I'm like, I'm standing over there, and I'm thinking, uh-oh, this is not good.
Mayor Baba claimed to be God. Mayor Baba's big thing was, I am Krishna, I am Buddha, I am Allah, I am all of them, I am the current incarnation. So I figure, okay, if he's Krishna, who is Mayor Baba? I'm gonna get the definitive answer.
So there was a silence, and I was holding my breath. And Srila Prabhupada looked at Prabhupada directly and said, I do not know. There are so many bogus Babas.
Jai Prabhupada.
And there was a bit of a silence, and then just know who is Krishna. That is sufficient. It was a perfect response, and Prabhupada was a really good sport about it, and he's been a devotee ever since.
Blessed. Sins removed. Illusion removed. The influence of the pure devotee.
His Grace Prabhupada Ki. So now we'll hear from Abhaya Charan. That's all he was initiated with that name by Prabhupada. Prabhupada's name is Abhaya Charan. In Sridham Mayapur, we received the name Abhaya Charan. Das. So please see the name.
Bye.
There you go. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Krishna Bhagavate Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravadi Puchari Nivishesha Sannavadi Paschatadistadane Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. My story is like completely different from amongst all my brother, senior brother. I'm in very, very small Prabhupada's servants of Prabhupada, disabled servants. So I came to Mayapur in 1974, 75, I was small, 11 years old. What you understand about the God? Nothing. Because the parent doesn't teach anything in the Bengal those days. I don't know even those days English, and the only language is Bengal. So one of the devotees visit to Bihar, Karachi, and he invited me come to the Mayapur temple. So I was on the way back home, and then I said, let me see what he said, come to Mayapur. So I just came to see. So when I passed to the ISKCON temple, those they call, not ISKCON temple, they call Sai Mandir. It's called Sai Mandir. So I went all the way to the Janmastan Chaitanya Mahaprabhu there, and then I asked, this is the temple of ISKCON? He said, no, this is not ISKCON. ISKCON, you see that big temple right there, big building, that is called Sai Temple. So they don't even say it is ISKCON temple. They say, everybody says Sai Temple, Sai Mandir. Otherwise, if you ask them the ISKCON temple, nobody knows. Even nobody knows what is in the temple, Mandir. So I went back again. There was happening an arati, and His Holiness Japan was there. And after Aarti, big Jayadhani was there. I don't know what is Jayadhani and all that. Everybody, I said, bow down. So I said, okay, let me bow down too. So I just bow down, I keep looking and bow down looking, when they're going to get up? So just looking, then finally, everybody stand up, and then they're having class, Bhagavad Gita class evening. And then after that, they're giving prasad, big halwa, pie, sweet rice, and all that. And then I was waiting for my, the devotee's name is Haridas. He lives in Bombay, he's still alive. And he's the one who invited me and said he'll be there at the same time. And I was waiting to come out, and it was coming dark evening. I said, I need to go back home, he must come. So then finally, I decided to go home, but on the way home from temple to the boundary, temple in Mayapur, and he just arrived there, and I met him each other, then he saw you came, that's good. Then, so he grabbed me and he stayed with his room. And then next day, Prabhupada was there. So he took me to Prabhupada. And Prabhupada had a 4 to 6, 2 hours Bengali darshan. So I went, and he didn't introduce to me, but I just went to do, he was talking in Bengali. So I listened that. And then after that, I'm skipping a lot of things. And then after that, I stayed there 6 to 7 months in Mayapur. Then Bhavananda Maharaj was there that time. He grabbed me to bring the temple, Calcutta. He said, we need a temple. Those days, India was very handful devotees was there. Very, very handful. And only all Western devotees. Very few Indian. Okay. So then I was in Calcutta, then Prabhupada came again, and then I wanted to have an initiative by Prabhupada. Very difficult to approach Prabhupada. But Jayapada Maharaj, he said, I was making plate for Krishna, and he said, come with me. I said, okay. I just went, and he put me beside the Prabhupada. I was talking to some guest, and then Prabhupada looked, and then he said, okay. So Prabhupada asked me in Bengali, thanks, because I was Bengali, I didn't ask me English. He asked me my names and where you from and all that I told. Then he said, I said, how many, he asked me, how many you brothers? I said, 5. He said, 1 brother can be devotee. So then whole family will be delivered. So then he said, you study? I said, yeah, I was studying. Then he said, Gita Gan. Those days, there was no literature, Bhagavad Gita, only 9th chapter. That's all, not even full Bhagavad Gita. And Gita Gan was there only. So we used to, the Gurukula, they used to teach us that, Gita Gan. So he asked me, how the Gita Gan? I said, yeah, I know, not full, but half. He said, can you say that? So I told half, so now half, other half, I didn't remember yet. This is very good, keep studying, okay? So that was very, fortunately, I met Prabhupada those days. And then there's a lot of story with Prabhupada with me. Then I joined with Lokanan Maharaj, how to do the big buses traveling Sankirtan in Simla, Haridwar, all those places. And that was, Prabhupada was very pleased, especially Prabhupada was very pleased, Bullock. So, yes. So, well, those was very austere in India, but we enjoyed those days. And people used to say, Indian people used to say, now you see how in Delhi we have like 13, 14 temples. We have only one small temple in the building, right? Nobody knew. Right. So now we have like 14 temples in Delhi. So, and we try to get that place from native place, and Gopal Krishna Maharaj come, Lokanan Maharaj come, and I had to drive all the time to DD office. Every time they come, Vyasa, I need to drive to DD office. And I was there looking at WBT Sankirtan. I said, okay, ready. So this is my praise to Srila Prabhupada.
Praise Abhaya Das Ki. He's humble, and he may not mention the fact, but when Prabhupada started the Padayatra with Lokanath Maharaj, so he was participating in that. And that's not like nowadays, you know, it's very, everybody comes, serves the devotees. Back then, nothing. So Lokanath Maharaj said to Prabhupada, he said, go buy bullock cart. He says, I don't have money, could you give me money for bullock cart? Prabhupada said, I'm sannyasi, I don't have money either.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
And they struggled, because in those days they didn't have much money. We were giving them khichdi. People were hungry. And they still, to please Prabhupada, traveled by foot so many places in this way. That's great, Abhaya Das Ki. So, Sikhi Mihiri Das, he's in Mayapur, I was Chicago. And they were Atlanta. So Atlanta, Chicago were always competing in those days. If you wanted to see Prabhupada, he would do his, as you know, he went, 8 times around the world, right? But his main business was translating the books. So he couldn't just sit, everybody wanted Prabhupada to stay, right? Wouldn't you? Yeah, if we said Prabhupada is Balabadra's house, everybody get up and leave one day, immediately. So temples would invite Prabhupada, please come, please come. So how do you think he decided where to go? Whoever sold the most books. So that way we were always competing. All day long I'm thinking, I want to see Prabhupada. So I have to sell more books in Atlanta. We have to beat Balabhadra in book distribution. Otherwise, we're not going to see Prabhupada. It's not Prabhupada's in Atlanta. You can't just Chicago go to Atlanta. No. You keep doing your service. Prabhupada told Vidananda Maharaj that one time when he took sannyas. He says, why is it everywhere I go I see you? So your business is not to enjoy the spiritual masters, to serve the spiritual master. Go. Put him out. So with that, I want to read this a little verse from the Bhagavatam that's pretty nice. It mentions this. We're running short on time, so I won't mess up the Sanskrit for you to hear. It says, this human form of body is a most valuable boat, and the spiritual master is the captain. Guru Kanadaram, to guide the boat in plying across the ocean of nescience. The instructions of Krishna is a favorable breeze. One must use all these facilities to cross over the ocean of nescience. Since the spiritual master is the captain, one must serve the spiritual master very sincerely, so that by his mercy, one will be able to get the mercy of the Supreme Lord. So we're here in this material world, and everybody agrees it's a place of suffering, yes?
Yes.
Doesn't matter rich, poor, what, it's just different kinds of suffering. So you pick what suffering you want. You know, there's some pain on this shoulder, so let me put it on this shoulder. Oh, that feels better. No, it's going to be hurting too. So the intelligent persons who are very fortunate, like it mentions here, if you come in contact with this knowledge, then you take it up. So we must have a purpose. That's what drove all these devotees. We were very fortunate to see this Mahatma. He's not an ordinary spiritual master. Look what he's done. Lord Chaitanya said that in every town and village of the world, his name would be chanted, right? So who has done that? It wasn't an easy task. He did it. And it's still going on. That's the proof how great he is. So we must grab that purpose. If you grab that purpose, then what you will find, there'll be no more suffering. Krishna says in the Gita, Mam cha yo vyabhicharina. It's unto me with great determination. What do? Bhakti yoga. Sevate. You render the seva bhakti yoga. And what happens when you do that? Saguna. Samatityaitana. You rise above the gunas. That's what we want, isn't it? Money isn't going to make you rise above the gunas. Good husband isn't going to do it. Good wife, none of these things. Do bhakti yoga. And then when you rise above the gunas, Brahma Bhuya Kalpate, there's your peace. So we have to make our purpose. If you want to satisfy Krishna, how do you do that? I don't see Krishna, he's not talking to me, but Prabhupada is here. So you make that your purpose of life, and you continue your duty of the other things. And you'll see how there'll be no more touched by the modes of material nature. And this is a nice purpose, isn't it? We can save this world. You see what's going on, isn't it? You know, America, India, China, this, that, mine, I. No, Krishna's. But they don't know. Why they don't know? Because we have to tell them. So we take this purpose like Prabhupada, and you find that your life becomes very nice. You become very happy, and you don't lose anything. We have many devotees that Prabhu, he sacrificed everything from Imri to start this movement. And then Prabhupada told him, he said, you should become a lawyer. So he's been a lawyer, he's not sad, he's still going. Nobody's suffering, are we? You just benefit. Everything is there in Krishna, everything. So this is our fortune. We're all getting old. Maybe a few more years we won't be doing any more of these Vyasa. We just be too old. At least my mother, she suffers Alzheimer's. I'll probably get that too, so I won't be able to speak anymore. But you please take up this mission and continue it. That's what's required. Don't let it die. That's what Prabhupada told us. He was very concerned. All this work I've done, then we just let it die. Please don't let it die. So you can take it up seriously, and you'll become very happy. So without further ado, let us hear from our chief guest, which we are very fortunate to have here to meet these pioneers of the Krishna conscious movement is very rare, because most of them are very old. Many have left their bodies already. But we still have a Balavanta here, or we have Jamanjaya, Balabhaja, so many. So he'll speak to us further on this point. His Grace Balavanta Prabhu Ki.
Jai. Vivo. Vivo.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone. Hare Krishna, Jai Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. So I would like to say a few words about why we are here, who Shri Prabhupada is, who we are, and what our mission is. So we talked a little bit this morning about the theme of timeless spirituality for the modern world. So, when I first became a devotee, I asked the temple president, and he wrote to Prabhupada this question: what is the relationship between the Hare Krishna movement and Hinduism? And Prabhupada wrote back, Hindu is a foreign word. It was given by the foreigners and referred to the people who live on the other side of the Indus River. So they call them Hindus, and that's why we call India, because of the other side of the Indus River. It's given by the Greeks and the Romans and those people. So it's not what we are doing here, even though I look out and I see the majority of people here are coming from Indian background. Of course, there's a reason for that, because Lord Chaitanya was in India, Lord Krishna was in India. And so the persons who were born in India, Prabhupada told us, there's a special punya. There's a special purity that comes from that birth. Because we are all conditioned souls, whether we're from India or whether we're from America or wherever we're from, we're conditioned. And so that conditioning covers us. It covers our eyes, so we can't see reality. So we look out and we see the world of automobiles and trees and buildings, and we get immersed in the affairs of the material world. We have to earn money, we support our families, we have to take care of our children, we have to do all those things. And those things are legitimate. We do have to do those things. And that is a reality, but it's a temporary reality. And as Prabhu said very nicely, it's a reality where we suffer. There is suffering. But the Krishna conscious movement is not a movement where we just think about suffering and death and old age. The Krishna consciousness movement is timeless spirituality coming to us happens to be from the geographical location of India. I'll say a few words about that in a minute. But what it's giving us is access to the reality which is beyond what we see and hear and experience on just a daily basis. Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. This Krishna consciousness movement takes us to Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. That it is the dimension, it is the atmosphere of pure happiness. Pure happiness and bliss and no suffering. But we can't achieve that through material means. It's not a material place. Even though it's here, it's within every single one of us. We are part of it. We are Jiva's soul, the evidence of which is consciousness. And that means we are spiritual, which means that we are part of the spiritual reality Brahman. But we are now separated from that by our conditioning. So that conditioning is made up of the modes of nature. So we have to get past the modes of material nature. So there's many religions in the world, and they all, to some degree, take part in this eternal reality. But so long as they don't take us beyond the modes of nature, they can't take us to the pure spiritual reality. They can't do it. They can give us a glimpse of it, they can't take us to it. Neither material life can take us to it. As much as it's important, taking care of our children, taking care of our families, taking care of our businesses, those all have to be done. That's part of the process. But those things will not take us to Brahman, to the spiritual reality. And Krishna is known as Param Brahman. He is the Supreme Brahman. So how do we get there? So I want to say a few words about Lord Chaitanya, who he is. Because Lord Chaitanya Lord Chaitanya appeared in Navadvip, Bengal, India. His grandfather was Nilambar Chakravarti. The Nilambar Chakravarti was the chief Brahmin of his day in Navadvip. Navadvip at that time was a center. At that time, 500 years ago, India was being occupied by the Mughals. And their center was in Bengal. They had other places, of course, in Delhi, but Bengal was the capital, sort of, to speak. Navadvip was the center of learning for Bengal for the followers of the Vedas, of the Varnashram, what we call today Hindus. It was a center of learning. Many Brahmins there. The chief Brahmin was Nilambar Chakravarti, who was Lord Chaitanya's grandfather. Lord Chaitanya was 7 feet tall. Imagine. And the Bengalis, God bless them, they're very intelligent, but they're not very tall. The Lord Chaitanya was 7 feet tall, and his arms came to his knees. He had all the auspicious sons. So his mother was the daughter of Nilambar Chakravarti. So he's born in Navadvip. And of course we all know he was born at the eclipse of the moon. Everyone was in the beginning. Navadvip is right on the Ganges. So Lord Chaitanya grew up in bathing in the Ganges. He was very learned immediately. Immediately very learned. So much so that when he was 15 or 16 years old, he had a school where he taught all the young people. And a Brahmin the Brahmins used to tour and they would debate. And they would become famous like movie stars for their debating, or like today's politicians. So this one Brahmin, he was from Kashmir. And he was known all over India as the most learned and effective debater. No one could defeat him. So he comes to Navadvip because Navadvip is the capital of the Brahminical culture of Bengal. So he's going to come and prove himself what a great learned scholar he is. So all the Brahmins were afraid to debate him because he would humiliate them. So they put Lord Chaitanya forward because they knew this was, not only was he big, and he was beautiful, and he had all the auspicious signs, but he was so intelligent. He was only 15 or 16 years old. And they put him forward to debate this Brahmin from Kashmir. So before the time of the debate, the Brahmin and the Kashmir met, Lord Chaitanya met with the Brahmin for a discussion. And Lord Chaitanya defeated him so totally that he immediately left town. And the proof of this is that later on, when Lord Chaitanya, even though he had everything materially going for him, he took sannyas at an early age, in his 20s. He went to Gaya in Bihar, and there's where he met his spiritual master, Ishwar Puri, who was the disciple of Madhavendra Puri, who was the chief devotee from Udupi. If you know where Udupi, Madhavendra Puri's place, Madhvacharya's place. The Madhvacharya is one of the 4 acharyas of Vedic culture. So it's Madhavendra Puri, Ishwar Puri, and Lord Chaitanya was there. So then he goes to Jagannath Puri, and he meets with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who is the most learned acharya of his day. This man is respected by everyone. He is famous all over India. Lord Chaitanya, so he's concerned, this young man, sannyasi, he's not going to be able to maintain sannyas. His brother, just now forget his name, his brother told him, no, this is actually incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's mentioned in the Vishnu Sahasranam. Did any of you know Vishnu Sahasranam? Savarna Varno Hemango Varangas Charanangadi Sanyasakrits Jamashanto Nishta Shanti Parayana. That's a verse that refers directly to Lord Chaitanya. Means the Lord Vishnu appears in golden color. He takes sannyas and he blesses the whole world. So the brother is a brother-in-law. The brother-in-law tells Sarvabhauma, no. This is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He said, no, he's not. Where's the proof? He says, Vishnu Sahasranam. He says, all right, let me speak with him. So he expounds the Vedanta Sutra to Lord Chaitanya for 7 days. And Lord Chaitanya just sits there. Just imagine the patience. Well, of course, he's Supreme Lord. To him, 7 days is a second, not even. So Sarvabhauma says, how can you sit and not ask any questions? I'm giving you this Vedanta Sutra, young man. I'm teaching you these things. What's wrong with you?
Do you understand?
Don't you understand what I'm asking you? Oh, I understand the verses very well. I just do not understand your commentary. So he said, oh, you don't understand my commentary? Then what do you not understand? And Lord Chaitanya then just let loose and explained everything that Sarvabhauma had said in 10 different perspectives. And so Sarvabhauma, who was the top acharya of his day, immediately falls down. And we have it from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. We weren't there, there probably were no other witnesses, but we have it from Chaitanya. The Lord Chaitanya then revealed himself to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And Sarvabhauma then became a permanent, lifelong told devotee of Lord Chaitanya. And he did it again to Prakasananda Saraswati in Benares. Same thing. All the great sannyasis, they all became surrendered to Lord Chaitanya. So this is who Lord Chaitanya is. So Lord Chaitanya is giving us the process for breaking through this material covering. I mean, who is a better authority than him, than he? If you look around, you can't find in this world, in the history of this world. I mean, we have great people. We have Lord Buddha, we have Lord Jesus, we have Muhammad, but and God bless them, you know, and may they bless us. But Lord Chaitanya, no one comes to that standard. And his disciple, his follower, Sanatana Goswami. Sanatana Goswami was the chief minister for the Mohammedan ruler of all Bengal. He had so much money that he could fill a boat full of gold coins as just a portion of his money. At this time, the Europeans were trading with India, and the main place was in Bengal. They would take their boats. So Raghunath Das Goswami and the Mohammedan rulers, they became extremely wealthy from this trade. So Sanatana was born in a Brahmin family, but he had lost his Brahminical standing because of his serving the Mohammedan government. So Sanatana Goswami, and then he left it all and became a follower of Lord Chaitanya and just wearing clothes that he picked off the street. The man was more wealthy. I mean, Elon Musk is nothing compared to what Sanatana and Rupa Goswami, I'm just about to do. So he became a follower of Lord Chaitanya, he and his brother Rupa, and then so many of the wonderful Goswamis. So he wrote a book called Hari Bhakti Vilas, because Lord Chaitanya personally instructed him about how to practice the philosophy that Lord Chaitanya was given. Nobody knows, we already established, nobody knows the Vedas better than Lord Chaitanya. And I could have talked some time on how the Vedas are the best source of knowledge about the absolute truth and the spiritual reality. They're the best place to go. Nobody knows the Vedas better than Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya personally instructed Rupa Goswami about how people should practice this transcendental process, right, after he was gone. And it was called Hari Bhakti Vilas. It's written in Bengali. Most of us, other than a few fortunate ones, we can't read Bengali, but it's coming down in disciplic succession. So everything that we're doing, what we're doing right now, at this very moment, celebrating Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja, worshiping the deity, taking prasadam, following the four regular principles, chanting Hare Krishna on our beads, having garlands, chanting bhajan, it's all coming from the Hari Bhakti Vilas. Our whole way of life that we are following is coming from Hari Bhakti Vilas, which is coming directly from Sanatana, which is coming from Lord Chaitanya. So if we follow this, and it's not just for us, I'm just say for a moment, because people now we are all divided up, and the world is divided, and people, you mentioned it, and that's the age of Kali, age of quarrel and hypocrisy and bodily identification. But in India, when the Britishers were in India, even though the Queen and the majority of them were disrespectful in a lot of ways, there was a large contingent of Britishers who recognized the Vedic culture and had great respect for it and great admiration and wanted to learn it, but couldn't learn it because they weren't qualified, frankly. They couldn't enter into Brahminical culture, but Prabhupada has brought it. So it's not just for one group of people, it's for the entire world. This is for the modern world. And if we keep following this, these scales that are on our eyes from the modes of material nature, we're all born conditioned. We're imprisoned in these bodies. And in these bodies we can't see the reality. But if we just follow this process, the Lord Chaitanya has personally given through Sanatana, through Bhaktivinoda, through the disciplic succession to us today, those scales will drop away. Those scales will drop away and you will see the absolute truth. You'll see that Krishna is everywhere and He's within your heart. And then there's no more death. There's no more old age. There's no more disease. Even you might be born, you're not born. Krishna appeared to be born, but he was not born. You will not be born, even if you'll be beyond all the miseries of this material world. Adhyatmic, adhidaivic, adhibautic, all these miseries won't affect you. If you reach that stage of what Buddha called enlightenment, but what we call Krishna consciousness. And every bit of it that we're doing today, this is what we're doing today, this is recorded by Krishna. Krishna is noting, this is devotion, this is bhakti, this is love, this is what opens your heart. And you just have to be careful not to become, again, more implicated in the material world. So you have to, there are things that we have to avoid. And we have to do our duties. We have to cultivate Krishna consciousness, and then we'll come to the perfection of life that Prabhupada promised. It doesn't happen in a moment, but it does happen in a moment. It begins immediately, and it just builds and builds and builds, and it gets better and better. So thank you so much, Hare Krishna.
So, I know you're busy in Alachua and all, but we appreciate it greatly. At least you could come some Sundays, and you can speak to us in depth on the Sunday lecture. We can get your association. So, by your mercy, we have all of this. So you please come back and give us your association. You promise?
Yeah.
Got it. This is a small thing to mention, because what really drove him here is Jamanjaya. He was he graduated from Emory, but he had to do a small internship. So instead of going to a monastery, he went to Nuvrindavan and Rupa Nuga, who said we need to begin Krishna consciousness in Atlanta because it is the gateway to the south. So he inspired him, and he facilitated Jamanjaya and a few other boys to come here because he was still busy finishing up his Emory studies. So Jamanjaya is officially the first president. And that Jamanjaya, you haven't met him much because he's mostly in Athens, but he's going through a health crisis now. He has probably 6 months to live. So we'll talk about that later. We need to put some funds together so that for the next 6 months he doesn't have to worry about these things. I just want to mention to you briefly so that we can help our pioneers, right?
Yay!
That's what we do, isn't it? So we thank all these devotees for this, and it's your turn next. Don't think this, you're getting off. You'll become old. Your children, keep this Krishna consciousness growing. So for further ado, we'll begin Pushpanjali. We'll have everyone stand up. I'm going to read from the prayers you offer. I'm going to cut them short because time is running fast. You're going to do Arti Chitra, okay? And so everyone please stand up, and we'll get some flowers, stand up, and we'll begin Pushpanjali. Leave some room here for these Prabhupada disciples to stand in the front. Thank you. Thank you. You get the cute one. Okay. So please come to the front, make some room for these. So everyone please just kind of get situated, we'll begin. You can repeat after me. No, just wait. Om Jnana Timirandjasa Niranjanam Sulakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sahaganam Vaidatam Vitam Sajivam Sadvaitam
Savadutam,
Varijana Saitam,
Varijana Sahitam,
Krishna Chaitanya Devam,
Krishna Chaitanya Devam,
Sri Radha Krishna Padam,
Sri Radha Krishna Padam,
Sadhana, Lalita, Sri Vishakam Vitamscha,
Sri Vishakam,
Sri Chaitanya Namo Vistam,
Sri Chaitanya Namo Vistam,
Abhitamena Bhutale,
Abhitamena Bhutale,
Swayam Rupa Gadamaya,
Swayam Rupa Kadamaya,
Dati Swaparantikam,
Dati Swaparantikam,
Namo Om Vishnu Padaya,
Namo Vishnu Padaya,
Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale,
Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale,
Srimati Bhaktivedanta,
Srimate Bhaktivedanta,
Swami Nityanamine,
Swami Nityanamine,
Namaste Saraswati Deve,
Namaste Saraswati Deve,
Gauravani Pacharine,
Gauravani Pracharine,
Nirvishesha Sunyavadi,
Nirvishesha Sunyavadi,
Pasyatya Deshitarine,
Pasyatya Deshitarine,
Namo Vishnu Padaya,
Namo Vishnu Padaya,
Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale,
Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale,
Srimati Bhaktisiddhanta,
Srimate Bhaktisiddhanta,
Saraswati Namine,
Saraswati Namine,
Shri Vishwanavi Devi,
Vyasa Devi,
Daityaya Prabhupada,
Jayavaya Prabhupada,
Krishna Sambandha Vijnana,
Krishna Sambandha Vijnana,
Daine Bhavate Namaha,
Daine Bhavate Namaha,
Utvama Premadya,
Bhagavata
Shri Bhaktida,
Shiruvarga Bhaktida,
Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti,
Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti,
Vigrahaya Namostute,
Vigrahaya Namostute,
Panchakapatrubhyascha,
Panchakapatrubhyascha,
Kripasindhuveva
Kripasindhuveva cha,
Patitana Pavanebhyo,
Patitana Pavanebhyo,
Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha,
Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha,
Namo Mahavadandaya,
Namo Mahavadandaya,
Krishna Prema Padayate,
Krishna Prema Padayate,
Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya,
Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya,
Krishna Namaha, Krishna Namaha,
Krishna Namaha,
Panchatattvam Krishnam,
Panchatattvam Krishnam,
Bhakta Rupa Sarupakam,
Bhakta Rupa Sarupakam,
Bhakta Avatar Bhaktatyam,
Bhakta Avatar Bhaktatyam,
Nami Bhakti Shaktikam,
Namami Bhakta Shaktikam,
He Krishna Karuna Sindhu,
He Krishna Karuna Sindhu,
Dinabandhu Jagatpate,
Dinabandhu Jagatpate,
Gopeshi Gopikanta,
Gopesha Gopikanta,
Kanta Namostute,
Namaste,
Kanjana Gaurange,
Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi,
Radhe Vrindavaneshwari,
Radhe Vrindavaneshwari,
Vrishabhanu Suti Devi,
Vrishabhanu Sudevi,
Manami Hari Priye,
Ramani Hari Priye,
Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya,
Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya,
Prabhu Nityananda,
Prabhu Nityananda,
Shri Advaita Gadadhar,
Shri Advaita Gadadhar,
Shri Gaur Bhaktavrinda,
Sri Gaur Bhaktavrinda,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama Hare Hare,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Namo Vishnu Padaya,
Namo Vishnu Padaya,
Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale,
Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale,
Srimati Bhaktivedanta,
Srimati Bhaktivedanta,
Swami Nityanamine,
Swami Nityanamine,
Namaste Saraswati Deve,
Namaste Saraswati Deve,
Gauravani Pacharine,
Gauravani Pracharine,
Nirvishesha Sunyavadi,
Nirvishesha Sunyavadi,
Pasyatya Deshitarine.
Pasyatya Deshitarine.
We're going to offer flowers 3 times, or spits of flowers in 3. Esha Pushpanjali.
Esha Pushpanjali.
Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
Namo Vishnu Padaya.
Namo Vishnu Padaya,
Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale.
Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale,
Srimati Bhaktivedanta.
Srimate Bhaktivedanta,
Swami Nityanamine.
Swami Nityanamine,
Namaste Saraswati Deve.
Namaste Saraswati Deve,
Gauravani Pacharine.
Gauravani Pracharine,
Nirvishesha Sunyavadi.
Nirvishesha Sunyavadi,
Pasyatya Deshitarine.
Pasyatya Deshitarine,
Esha Pushpanjali. Namo Vishnu Padaya.
Namo Vishnu Padaya,
Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale. Srimati Bhaktivedanta
Srimati Bhaktivedanta
Swami Niti Namine
Swami Nityanamine
Namaste Saraswati Deve
Namaste Saraswati Deve
Gauravani Pacharine
Gauravani Pracharine
Nirvishesha Sunyavadi
Nirvishesha Sunyavadi
Paschatya Deshitarine
Deshitarine
Desha Pushpanjali Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Prabhupada ki Shri Guru Jagannath He Bhagavata Ji Sarva
Shri Guru Chana
Krishna
parivrajaka